This is so hot off the press, I can hardly touch it. It's photographing the Snowdonia Mountains by Nick Livesey, which is the latest Fotovue guidebook. Now, Fotovue have been doing photo guidebooks now for a few years. The first one was the Lake District one, I think. There's another one from Snowdonia by Simon Kitchen, which delves more into the valleys, and they've got others from the likes of Scotland, the Dolomites, and they've also got a pipeline of some other wonderful places as well. I should point out that I'm not being paid for this video in any way, shape or form. I approached Fotovue because I knew Nick, and I wanted to get my hands on this book as early as possible to review it. I asked them for an advance copy, and they happily sent me one, which was very kind of them. And I said I would do a frank review for it. Now, I've known Nick for a little while now, for about 4 or 5 years, and I was aware that he was doing a book, so I was very, very keen to get my hands on it. But that doesn't mean I'm gonna shower him in praise or anything like that. He would expect nothing less than for me to give him a proper roasting over his book. So, right, review time. Now, it's quite interesting because Nick comes to photography from the same sort of place that I came, which was through hill walking, but in Nick's case also mountaineering as well. And he wanted to share his love for the mountains with other people, which is why he got into photography. So this book is very much comes from Nick's heart, and that's all too evident from the get-go, with a nice poem by Jeffrey Winthrop Young, who was a poet, educator, author, and more importantly, mountaineer from the early 20th century. It then goes on and gives a rather nice foreword. It's provided by Sir Chris Bonington, who effectively sort of gives a history of his life over a couple of pages, and how he got into mountaineering and adventuring, and why Wales is an important part of that life that he's led. So right from the get-go, the book is very much focused on a love for the hills and the mountains, rather than the photography. But that doesn't mean that there is not some awesome photography throughout the book. Now, this kind of feels weird, doesn't it? You know, I'm kind of like sat in a nice warm house. It's a Saturday night. It's 8 o'clock, 8:30. Might go and get a kebab or something. It seems wrong that I would be reviewing this book here. So maybe I need an early start. Catch you in the morning.
That's certainly the case with my ongoing public accounting of the Trump-Russia investigation, though the work is made easier, I'll confess, by the almost historic absence, I say this advisedly, of any exculpatory evidence suggesting the President of the United States did not conspire with our enemies to violate federal law.
Well, hello. I've come to this famous little tree here on Llyn Padarn. Almost as famous as the lonely tree on Buttermere. I guess this is probably the second most known. Kind of ironic, really, when reviewing a book about the Snowdonia mountains, that I should come to this particular location, but we'll get onto that in a minute. Oop, there's the train. Right, so Nick's book, 288 pages. It's pretty big. He's clearly spent a lot of time on this book. In fact, he spent well over 2 years documenting the walks, taking the photos, and going back repeatedly to get different images in different conditions, and to provide you with as much information as he possibly can, given any time of year that you may wish to go there. But before you even get onto the walks, there are 49 pages of useful information, including information about Snowdonia's weather patterns, useful information around mountain gear, mountain safety tips, planning a photo day on the hill, and perhaps most importantly, where to get food, drink, and where to stay, including some of Nick's favourite chippies. Now, once you get to page 50, you're then onto the walks themselves, and there are 15 walks that are high-level mountain days that have amazing vistas and interesting features with which to work with, to photograph. And then beyond that, there are another 10 kind of location guides for more roadside locations and very short walks if you're not quite up to the big mountain days. But let's concentrate on those 15 walks, shall we? Because that's the main reason for this book in the first place. Now, each of those walks covers anything from sort of 5 to 10 pages worth of text and images, and some of the images are sublime. Really lovely mountain vistas in all sorts of beautiful conditions. And then to go along with that, there's the more sort of stock snapshots, as it were, of things to help you on your way, and just to provide a record of the walk that you'll be undertaking. There are images with people in them, namely Nick's companions looking out over these amazing vistas, as well as images of people climbing. Nick himself as well appears climbing in some of these images as well. And then, yes, landmarks and all that kind of thing. So a lot of work has gone into this, but the walks, I guess, one of the things I really enjoy about this book is that Nick is a fantastic writer. He really knows how to use words to convey emotion and feeling. Now, as an example, I'm going to read to you one of the walks. Well, the first part of one of the walks, just to get a feeling of the type of writing that Nick employs. Ooh, right. Okay. So, Cadair Idris, which is the 15th walk in the book. The walk. Leaving the car park can be a wrench, as its babbling stream and picnic tables provide an almost irresistible inducement to linger. But leave it you must, for the day is young, and there is much to see and photograph. Ignoring a large sign to the contrary, turn left and walk for about 1 kilometre along the road in idyllic surroundings until the whitewashed Guernan Lake Hotel throws up another potential derailment of your progress. Directly opposite is a gate through which you are ushered away from lesser temptations and delivered onto a path which becomes more enchanting with every step. Viewpoint 1, the Lower Fox's Path. Before long, you are above the valley and can peer down on a vision of verdant beauty which would not be out of place in the Lake District. Ahead of you, the mighty northern wall of Cadair rears up, and all around are secretive dells and gnarled hawthorns demanding your photographic attention. Leaving the trodden ways to explore shaded corners, hillocks and knolls can be very profitable. Can be a very profitable exercise in terms of discovering hidden gems and seldom seen compositions. And that's symptomatic of Nick's writing throughout the book. The walks are really engaging to read, even if you're not actually on them. And they might well inspire you to undertake those mountain days when the weather is good or even when it's poor. Now, of those 15 walks, 10 or 11 of them are kind of from the northwestern area of the park, amongst the greater mountain ranges such as the Carnedai, the Glitterai, the Snowdon range, the Snowdon Massif itself, and some of the outlying peaks close to those more magnificent mountains, I guess. Which leaves about 4 or 5 walks to cover the rest of Snowdonia, which is of course a massive national park. And I suppose that's one of my only criticisms of the book, is that that the rest of the park is somewhat neglected, although the walks that Nick has chosen to represent in the book are absolutely magnificent in themselves. I kind of get the feeling that Nick is holding back there, and that this isn't the last book in this series of photographing Snowdonia's mountains that we are likely to see. Now, a moment ago I also mentioned that there were 10 roadside locations or shorter walks, such as Kumidwal, and in fact this particular location here, in fact what Nick has done is he's combined various locations leading up the valley towards Penny Pass that you can stop in your car, take a short walk and photograph some iconic as well as some not so iconic locations. And I guess in many ways this particular tree here, I have, despite being a photographer for a number of years now and having come to Snowdonia many times, in fact it's the place I like to come to most, I've never actually taken a photo of this tree, and I just feel that I wouldn't be able to do it justice. When the conditions are favourable for this kind of image, I would prefer to be up on top of the mountains, which is what the point of this book is. And I guess Nick has had to include these particular types of locations, not necessarily to flesh out the book, but just to provide an alternative on days where the weather's not so great necessarily for heading up into the mountains, but also just for a little bit of variety. But it's kind of ironic that I'm actually doing this video from one of them. It would be fair to say that this book, although in Nick's name, hasn't been an absolutely solo endeavour. In fact, on many of the walks that he's undertaken, he's done so with some companions. And Nick, being Nick, a generous heart that he hasn't forgotten those souls. And there is a section towards the back of the book where he thanks those individually, calls them out, and gives a little bit of a spiel on who they are. And what they did necessarily to contribute to the book. Now, what about the man himself, Nick? Interesting character. He's not from around here. He's originally from Manchester and spent most of his life growing up in Peterborough. And of course there is a section where Nick talks about his upbringing, his early life and what led him to the mountains, which makes very interesting reading. Of course, some things that he does leave out are, now this is quite interesting if you do a little bit of search on the internet, Nick a few years ago described himself as a talentless and cowardly mountaineer, and that is typical of Nick, really. If you ask him what it's like to walk and live in these mountains and at the same time smoke like a chimney and drink well, to excess a lot of the time, then his opinion is he hasn't got long on this earth, and he's just going to enjoy himself while he's here. At the end of this vlog, on one of the end cards, I will link to a small video that was done a couple of years ago now of Nick on top of More Burford. Moyle Bearbed. It's a funny watch, and it's worth clicking on and watching just to get a better sense of the man himself, if you've never been on one of the receiving ends of his insults in the Moyle Shabbat Cafe. God, you know what? It's been a real pain in the ass doing this review here. I've got the steam train tooting its horn every 2 seconds. I've got canoeists coming back and going, "What are you doing, mate? Are you photographing?" No, I'm doing video. Just get out my shot, please. And then we've got walkers and dog walkers walking past. Whoever wants to come and photograph this tree. Probably the one location in the book that I would tend to avoid, actually. But there we go. Photographing Snowdonia's Mountains by Nick Livesey, an absolutely fantastic book that's absolutely worth investing in. One note of caution, the maps that are included for the walks are absolutely excellent, but they are no substitute for a proper OS map. So if you're going to undertake one of the walks, then make sure that you do have a proper map and you understand how to use it. Now, one final thing. Fotovue have kindly offered to provide an exclusive discount for all the viewers of this vlog, and the discount is available on all of their books between now and December the 31st. It's a 20% discount that is a coupon code that you enter at the checkout if you go onto their website and use the code TOWHIT, TOWHIT, and that will give you 20% off your basket of photo books. Now, one person you haven't seen, and I'll call him a person, is Monty. He's been walking around and distracting me this whole time, and I think he wants to go and walk up a mountain, so that's what I'm going to do. So next time, join me. I'm not entirely sure what next week's vlog's going to be. It could be from Snowdonia, it could be from the comfort of my own office, but hopefully, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. This video is not sponsored by Squarespace, so no unsplash comments and all of that sort of stuff. Anyway, right, till next time, boom!